Hello and welcome back to the Coaches Show on 90.1 KBPK. We're at the Hornets' Nest because it's time for some Fullerton College men's basketball. Right here on the Coaches Show, we not only talk to Coach Perry Webster, but there's a few new coaches on this Fullerton College coaching staff that we got a chance to talk to. You'll see Mark Pavlovich with them in just a couple of moments, and myself with some of the Fullerton College athletes. So we're talking with Coach Perry Webster, and Coach, when you take a look at your program, obviously, you know, we talk to you after each and every season, and before each season, get an overview of what you're looking forward to in the first few weeks. When you take a look at this team, what type of personality have you seen this team take in the first few weeks that you've seen them?
Yeah, you know, it's been more than a few weeks because they were really together most of spring and most of summer. We added a few pieces as the summer went on, but most of the guys were together, and they work hard. They're in the gym constantly. They love basketball. They're good to each other. I'm really pleased with the group and what their effort's been and how they care about each other. It's been a positive experience so far.
How difficult is it to teach the Fullerton College way to these guys over the summer?
Yeah, you know, not as much teaching goes in over the summer. You know, it was more offensive stuff, more skill stuff. When you hit the fall, we really start focusing on some of those main defensive principles and some of the things that really matter to us. I would say with this group, there wasn't so much to overcome because there's a fair amount of returners. There's 9 or 10 guys who returned last year from the program, not all played, but with all those guys back, the new guys are able to just kind of follow their lead, and they've done a good job of buying in and doing the things that have been asked of them.
I mean, you mentioned that. You look at last year, and it just seemed like you had enough injury problems to last an eternity. But a lot of those returners were able to fight through that as a team and get that kind of experience working through that. What does that do for year 2 for them?
Yeah, you know, it's going to be interesting to see. You know, we have 2 freshman point guards, RJ Banks and Sean Newman, that are 20 years old, have been out of high school for a couple years, and because of their injuries and because of COVID, they're still only freshmen. So I think we have a lot of experience, age, wisdom. We've been through some ups and downs. You know, Corey Joseph is another point guard who returns, who already has 10 starts under his belt. So there's just a lot of guys who have experience and have played and been successful on this level. Now it's just about bringing those new guys along with them and continuing to have to be successful.
You mentioned RJ, got to talk to him last year, and you talked about him as a guy that you felt you could lean on once you get the season rolling. When you take a look at this year, is he going to be that type of guy that you look at and say, you've got to lead our program?
Yeah, I think we have a really good, talented group of guards, and he's one of them. And he's, you know, along with Shaquille and Sean and Kobe and Jeremiah and some of these guys, they're talent there. They play well together. So you know, we're not going to have to hope that we're not going to have to lean too heavily on one guy at all. I feel like we've got a lot of different weapons and a lot of guys who can make things happen on both ends.
When you talk Perry Webster program, it's all about defense first, then you get to the offense and the skill base. How do you teach that defensive tenacity to them as soon as they get into fall?
Well, it's a requirement. You know, it's a requirement. You got to do it. Everybody knows that they got to do it. There's a lot of stopping, fixing things. If they're not fixed, there's more stopping and fixing things, and you got to kind of just beat it over and over. It's an everyday thing. We've changed our defense a little bit this year. We'll be different because we want it to fit our personnel, but we still feel like with the X's and O changes, we can still be very effective on that end.
I mean, when you mention that, how hard is it as a coach to have an initial idea of what you want to kind of instill in camp, and then you see what type of personnel you have and change it accordingly?
Yeah, I think it's kind of was the other way around for us a little bit. I think that we had an idea of how we wanted to take the program forward when last season ended, and we wanted to be more guard oriented. We wanted to be able to play mostly with 4 guards. We felt like we had great guard depth within the program, and we could. The best thing for us was going to be able to find ways to put all of them on the floor together. So because of that personnel, we kind of, you know, the way we recruited the whole spring and the summer was kind of to fit what we already had, and now we're in it. And we're, you know, I think we're going to be 40 minutes of 4 guards or even at times 5 guards.
You mentioned that that's a lot of getting up and down the floor with these guys. How difficult is it to be able to teach the conditioning that will come into place later on in the season, this early on?
Yeah, I think it's a fine line. You know, you gotta be careful to not get them, you know, where they're in tip-top shape in September, because they don't need to be in tip-top shape in December. They really need to be continuing to get in good shape as you head into the season starting in November. I'm a firm believer in conditioning happens on the floor. We scrimmage and we play a lot. We don't practice for 3 or 4 hours. We practice for an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, and for the most time we're playing 5-on-5, 4-on-4, and there's no real way to condition for basketball unless you're playing games or playing, you know, makeshift games in practice, and that's kind of how we've always done it. And you know, early in the year, you still got to develop that wind. We expect to play a lot of guys, so hopefully we can overcome some of that, especially early.
You mentioned playing a lot of guys. Is that something that you're going to try to establish early on in the season, getting those guys off the bench a lot of playing time?
Yeah, I got to do a good job of finding ways to make sure that we're using depth, and also make sure that we're also still taking advantage of guys that I feel like are a few of the most talented guys in the state. So those guys need their rest, but they also need to be on the floor. So that's going to be something that we as a staff have to do a good job of navigating, and that'll change as the season goes on.
You know, I'm just a spectator, a fan, watching you guys, and especially you being the head coach. It always looks to me, at least from the sidelines, like it's one of the most difficult things you have to do in terms of, like you were talking about, balancing what guys need to do, what you know that they can do, and then also getting them the proper playing time. How difficult was the transition for you, going from player to head coach and getting that mentality set?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, you wish you could play everybody, right? You want everybody to get opportunities to get film and to get exposure and to get seen, but it's not fair to the team if everybody's playing equally. So you have to try to find, you know, different times in the season where you could use different guys, especially if you have depth like we have, and kind of like we felt like we had last year until we ran into some injuries. But you know, it's never easy, and you could go into a game thinking you're going to play a guy a bunch of minutes and the game flow goes opposite of that, or you go into a game not thinking you're going to play a guy much minutes and the game flow goes opposite of that. So I try to base my my subbing patterns on what the feel of the game is and what we kind of need. But also I kind of try to get these guys in a little bit of a rotation, at least in the first half, where they have a little bit of an expectation of, okay, I'm going in at this minute, this is where I need to be, and you know, locked into, you know, at this time. So we're still working through that, and we expect that to change as the season goes on. You just never know, you know, what's going to come.
You talk about feel of the game. Have you noticed youth basketball and the way that things are trending in terms of offense and defense making an impact at the community college level?
You know, we don't see it as much. I'll be honest with you, I think that a lot of people have a lot of hot takes about, you know, youth basketball or high school basketball and how things are changing better or for worse. But, you know, my stance is once they get here in our program, we're going to coach them and ask them to do the things that we want them to do. I feel like we're a little old school. I may be young and have a young staff, but I feel like we're still old school. We like to hold guys accountable on both ends of the floor. We got to make sure we hold guys accountable in the classroom, in the community. They need that discipline. They know they need that discipline, and I think sometimes, you know, you look at our program and people want to talk about the talented players or this or that, the other. You know, Friday morning we do study hall. Every guy shows up on time. You know, those are the bases of the program, the pillars of the program that are things that we really emphasize and we do, and I think that makes us different, and we're able to hold them accountable there. We're able to hold them accountable here. We're able to hold them accountable in the classroom, and then they're able to hold each other accountable to each other. And I think that they do a great job of. I don't have to police this group. I don't have to get on them. They take care of themselves. They're mature. They handle their business. There's a lot of guys out behind me that are going to get 4-year scholarships. Maybe 10, 12 guys. So might not happen this year, but there's a lot of guys who are going to go on and move on to do big and great things.
Coach, I've talked to you about the family aspect that you bring to this program. When you mentioned the study hall, keeping these guys accountable, how do you make those connections to your players early on to say, you know what, we have your best intentions in mind, not just on the basketball court, but off it as well?
Yeah, it's just part of the recruiting process for us. It's everything that we do. We're going to hold you accountable to do these things. Some of our guys come in here with academic problems, and we try to make sure we give them a little extra help and support. But you know, for the most part, and credit Fullerton College to that too. Credit Vice President of Student Services Gil Contreras, Rod Garcia, Jose Ramon Nunez. Those guys do a great job in making sure that these student athletes are supported. And when these guys need help in the classroom, they're able to go get tutors and they're able to go get the help that they need so they can be successful. And our team GPAs reflect that, and the scholarships that we get out of here reflect that.
You talked about the team GPA. When you take a look at how your team progresses from the start of camp until the very end of the season, you take a look at not only how they've progressed on the court, but also in that study hall like you were talking about. What sense of pride does it give you to be able to see that progress, not just on the basketball court, but in that GPA?
Well, I'll give you an example of a guy. Kobe Newton came in here not a very good student, and he came in here a little bit lazy. And that guy does a great job academically now. He's a 3.5 student. He's always in the study hall taking care of business, and that's why his recruitment is picking up. I think it's just part of the culture. He bought into what he had to do. We got on him a couple times, and he's a smart kid, and so he's successful that way. And I think when you peel back some of the layers on a lot of these guys, they are smart kids, and they just need a little push in the right direction, and then they do a good job.
Well, Coach, we wish you the best of luck here in the start, and we look forward to talking to you again this season.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
So we're talking with RJ Banks right now here on the Coaches Show on 90.1 KBPK. RJ, you know, the Coaches Show got to talk to you last year about what style of guard you are.
Yes, sir.
Now we'll take a look at that first year of college. When you see that first level of competition versus where you are now, how do you think you would grade your experience so far at the community college level?
So far at the community college level, my experience has been nothing but wonderful to me. Every single game and every single practice has given me a way to improve my game and improve my mindset. So that first year did nothing for me except make me better and just, you know, give me chance after chance to improve daily.
You talk about improving. What is one thing that you wanted to work on in the summer before you got to fall camp?
One thing that I really wanted to work on this summer was my ball security, staying poised and staying under control, even in high intense situations where there's a lot of people around me or maybe a lot of hands, a lot of defenders. I really wanted to work on still being able to stay poised and make good decisions out of those situations.
I mean, when you mention that, there's some point guards who prefer to keep a little bit of open space in between their defender and some who like to work off the hip.
Exactly.
What type of point guard are you?
I like to work off the hip. I like to get into those situations where I have multiple people with their eyes on me or multiple people engaging with me, because then that makes me know that I have a teammate wide open or two teammates wide open and I can trust myself to make that play.
How do you kind of instill in yourself that extra vision to know when a guy is open, but not necessarily seeing him outright?
Yeah, it just takes a lot of time and a lot of reps. Daily here, I'm working off the pick and roll, working on getting in the paint, and eventually you just get a feel for the game, get a feel for certain things, and you'll be able to make those plays once you have that feeling.
You talk about the pick and roll. There's different styles of pick and roll that people like to run. What's your favorite?
I like to, bring the ball down the sideline and run middle pick and roll. I like to go towards the middle so that I have every option open. Once you go towards the sideline or towards the baseline, it kind of cuts off some of your options. So I like to be able to hit any guy that's open at any time and, make the play.
I mean, when you mention that, do you prefer more of a high style, or you get towards the paint and then you work off of that?
I prefer more of a high style so that I have, more room when I'm coming off to get into the paint and make, do whatever move or do whatever matchup that I have when I come off that pick and roll.
When you're a guard bringing up the ball, one of the most important things you could have is being able to handle the ball with your offhand.
Mm-hmm.
How do you personally keep that skill set up, even when you're trying to go through practices and also making sure that you're ready for the season?
Yeah, it just takes daily work, daily dribbling drills, two ball dribbling, different things like that. But once you get comfortable with it, it's not a skill that will leave you easily. You know what I'm saying? Once you're comfortable with it, you use it every day. So it's like daily getting sharpened and sharpened.
When you have the opportunity to play at the community college level, you know that intensity starts to build up. Now you've seen it where you go towards conference and it gets even more ramped up.
Right.
What would you say about the style of community college basketball that you've experienced so far?
So far, the style that I've experienced has been it's been very fast. So let me say that. It's been very fast up and down. A lot of teams like to press. A lot of teams like to, pressure up on the guards and things like that. But at Fullerton, the style that we play is a great style of basketball. We move the ball, we involve our teammates, and whoever's open will get the shot, and there's no type of ego and there's no type of personal agendas in it. So I couldn't ask for a better style of basketball, honestly.
Well, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing that style in play.
Thank you pretty much. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the Coaches Show on 90.1 KBPK. Well, this is personality part of the show. And I say it's personality part of the show because that's what I have. An assistant coach next to me, Devin. I'm going to let you say your last name.
Yeah, Devin Ugland.
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 And when we talk about coaching, that is the personality of the team. And you've been with Perry now almost 4 years?
Correct.
And what are your responsibilities as an assistant coach?
Most of the things that I focus on are player personnel for other teams and scouting other teams' best players and creating the reports that we then implement on game day.
So I'm really going to get into that because you're going to look at basketball a little different than Perry Webster or anybody else who may be an assistant coach on that team. So how do you rate players when you're scouting for Fullerton College?
Oh, when I'm scouting for our guys to recruit, I gotta start with, do they play hard? Do they have the size, the length, the physicality, the ability to come in here and practice hard every day, deal with the hard coaching, deal with the physicality of the next levels, right? High school kids, the hardest thing for them when they get to this level is dealing with stronger, bigger, more physical guys, because you never know if there's a 25-year-old on a roster or a 21-year-old or a 22-year-old. So I really look for guys who I think can come in and be ready right away to defend, rebound, and play physical.
Is it difficult to find a young man? Because we all know Perry.
Yeah.
We've seen him on the sideline.
Yeah.
A little intense,
Yep.
to say the least. I've watched you on the sideline.
A little bit.
Running up and down, screaming at players, telling them to play defense,
Yeah.
because that's what I remember you. You're out there yelling defense to them all the time. How difficult is it to find that player that you need to say, hey, look it, you're going to get taken down, you're going to get scolded, and you better not have a personality where you go.
Right.
Do you have to explain that to them for this coaching staff?
Some kids, yes. There are some kids who play for high school coaches who are similar to what Perry does, and they understand that hard coaching is part of the game. There are some kids whose high school coaches don't necessarily coach them in that fashion, more of a laid-back style, more of the delivery is more soft or more nice than what you get here at Fullerton College. But yeah, most of the kids who come in here know coming in here that you're going to be challenged. You're going to be challenged mentally, physically, and you're going to have to take coaching and take hard coaching.
And the other thing is, when you're recruiting somebody, being a young person who comes here, all right, this is a college, this is the next step.
Yep.
What do you tell them academically when you're talking to them?
That's number one. Academics are number one. That's the only way you can stay on the floor. Because if you're academically ineligible, you're not playing. You're not playing, you're not practicing. You're in the room over there on the side, outside the gym, working on homework and getting things turned in that need to get turned in so you can catch up. And there's a stigma surrounding junior college that every kid who comes here is a bad student, right? Or a bad person, or whatever it may be.
Right.
But we have a lot of guys on this squad who came in here as guys who were already qualifiers out of high school, who are already qualified for NCAA Division I, Division II level programs. But sometimes they slip through the cracks in recruiting and different things. There are some students players and students that we get who aren't the best in class, and we really have to make sure that they know they got to take care of the books before they step on the court.
So he evaluates the people that are going to play here, and now let's go to the other half of your job. You're evaluating opponents for Perry Webster and your other co-coaches.
Yep.
So what do you have to bring back to Perry and the other co-coaches to say, watch out for Ryan Osborne, he's a little quick, especially when he gets to the sideline, he can knock down a three. Corey Nalen doesn't shoot as well as he did in the old days. So how do you evaluate with a Perry Webster mind, since Perry isn't standing behind you saying, did you see this or that?
So the key is, how can we stop that guy? What are his tendencies? Because what we do here is all based on, as you know, and you've seen for how many years now with Perry here, all predicated on defense.
Right.
How can we stop this guy? What are his tendencies? What does he do well? How do we take that away? How do we take away his strengths, make him do something he doesn't want to do? Take him out of his game. So what I do is I watch hours and hours of film. I sit at my computer, I turn on film, I watch countless hours, I'll watch individual clips. Last year we played Santiago Canyon in a league game, and actually one of our players' brothers was on the team, Sam Howland, Eric Howland. I watched 450-something clips of Eric Howland to figure out how to stop him. Very talented player. He's at Biola now on a full scholarship. And I watched, like I said, about 400 plus clips of Eric Howland to figure out how to stop him. Didn't work one night, didn't work the other night, but it's really just finding out what the opponent's strengths are, not only individually, but in their team atmosphere, in their system, what they run, and how to take guys out of their attacking zone.
All right, so let's say you go to a game
Sure.
to evaluate somebody too, because now you're watching live. Do you look at the personality, not only the physical skill on the floor? Can I bait them? Can I say something to them? Do you pick things like that up and
Big time.
whisper it into the player's ear?
That's huge. That's huge for me. When I go watch high school kids or anybody else who are recruiting, I really look at how they take coaching, how they react to a turnover by a teammate, how they react to a missed shot, how they react to getting taken out of the game. Do they go to the end of the bench and sulk and put their head between their knees and not engage with their teammates? Do they cheer for their teammates when they're out of the game? I look for all those things because those are character traits that, it's hard to turn those things around. It's hard to change those things. But if the kid has those types of character traits that are positive, uplifting, good presence, those are things that we want in this program.
So you can have them in this program and you can use it against it in other programs.
Correct.
Once you see those personalities. I've got a coach next to me that is, I'm going to say, the psychological side of basketball or sports. A lot of people think you just go out and play, but you're sort of that yin and yang of the basketball team that have to keep these guys on key and have to teach them how to keep their opponents off key to have a winning program here at Fullerton.
Correct. Yeah, that's the biggest thing is having us at the top of our game, physically, mentally, but also being able to take a different team and take them out of their chemistry or take them out of their comfort zones.
So Perry Webster's the voice and the body and the spirit. This might be the mind or the psychological aspect of the team. Devin?
Ugland.
There
you go.
I got it. See?
You got it.
He just upgraded me here on the Coaches Show on 90.1 KBPK.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
One day.
Welcome back to the Coaches Show. That's right. They got the old guy here, and they finally brought on a double ganger for me. I mean, I know it's tough looking at the screen right now, trying to figure out which one is Mark and which one is Marshall. But I mean, what the heck? You figure it out there on the Coaches Show here on 90.1 KBPK. Marshall Johnson, Corey Nealon, this one's for you. NAIA, Azusa Pacific. Graduated in, what you say, 2012?
2012 was my last year playing. I finished up graduating 2013 though.
Okay, so I'm going to look at you and say, power forward?
No, I was a guard. It's just,
Wow.
yeah, just been a lot of eating.
Wow. So NAIA, we got to do Vanguard University for a lot of years, so we saw a lot of basketball, talented people on the NAIA level, which seems to get overlooked because of NCAA 1, 2, and 3. So you come out of the NAIA, and I've got to ask you, because you played the game and you were a guard, and you're now an addition as a coach here. How difficult is to coach the young people that, I'm old school basketball, real old school, that look at you and say, Coach, I know when you played, the game was like that, but see, that's not my style. That's not the way I play. How do you as a coach convince me that I have to be part of Fullerton College and change my style, or do you?
Well, the fundamentals of basketball don't change, right? It's the same game that, you played, I played, these guys are going to play, over the years, guys just get bigger, they get stronger, they get faster, they get more athletic. So obviously the play changes a little bit, but, the fundamentals are still the same.
So when you say that to me, Marshall, I look at some of our young men that are going to be playing guards out here, and then I look at you. They're going to be a little more finesse because of your physicality. You could go down and take on almost anybody in the game and play against them. How do I teach a point guard for Perry Webster, who's built like me, And can I assimilate your game? Can you teach your game to me? I know the fundamentals are the same, but you had to be a physical player. How do I, at 5'7", 142, learn to be a physical player?
Well, I mean, I think that's all mental, right? Being a physical guy and physicality, you know, that's something that you either have or you don't. It's not taught, right? So being able to get into the mix things up a little bit, you know, that's the key. You know, I'm not teaching any of these guys to be physical, right? I'm encouraging you to be physical, but I'm not teaching you that. That is something that you either bring or you don't, right? And you know, that's up for the player, you know.
So we brought up what you're teaching. So now being with Perry Webster, a defense-oriented basketball team, were you brought in to enhance the defense, or was Perry hoping to find a coach that could enhance the offense for this Fullerton College team?
Well, he brought me in here to help with the defense. I'm a defensive guy myself. That's what I pride myself on. I mean, offense, I'm a true believer, is going to take care of itself. You know, with skilled guys and working on your game, right, that's going to handle itself. But defensively, right, being able to get in here and impose your will on other teams, you know, that's what we're about, right? And Coach Perry and I had that conversation prior to me coming here, and, you know, I'm happy to be a part of the team.
Okay, and you just said to me when we were talking earlier that, well, Mark, you know the game, it's basically the same. But I've looked at basketball. I think basketball has changed.
Okay.
I don't think there's necessarily a point guard anymore, or a shooting guard anymore, or a power forward, or a big man down low. Big men come out and shoot the three. You have a shooting guard and a point guard that now is a combo guard. So, am I right or am I wrong for somebody who comes from old school? Is this a different version of the game that I grew up with? I know you say it's fundamentally the same. Yeah. But I got to look and say it's completely different than what I saw when I grew up.
Well, yeah. I mean, basketball's become a little bit more positionless, right? I mean, with the conversations that we have as a staff, the more positionless we are, then the faster we get up the floor, the faster we can get into our offense. I mean, you know, when guys know every position on the floor, you're a little bit more dangerous. You're harder to guard. So I think that you probably could have done that back in the day, but you know, as the game has changed and as we've, you know, encouraged guys to do other things, the game has evolved.
When we look at this too, and you teach defense, I love person-to-person defense.
Okay. Yep.
But are we going to see a multiple defensive unit, or are we going to see a defensive unit with a lot of man-on-man, person-on-person, or are we going to switch out to zone and amoeba zone and things like that? What aspects of that are you bringing in?
Well, I don't know who's watching, so I don't want to give up all of our secrets. But I will say, though, that because we do have that positionless style of basketball, we do have the luxury of switching defenses and doing a lot of other things. So, yes, we will do a bunch of things this year. And, of course, it's as our guys pick it up. But, you know, if we can get into other things, it's going to help us out a lot.
Well, when you talk basketball, you can look at either one of us and know who is more physical. It's probably over here on the left. We're going to go out and play a little one-on-one when we get out here. Coach, thank you very much. I wish you the best.
Thank you as well.
I wish I'd have seen you played when you were over to Azusa Pacific. Just off the record, how many points a game?
About 13 a game.
There you go.
Played for a natty. I played for a national championship over there.
There you go.
Yep.
13 points a game. How many rebounds?
About 3 or 4. We had some good big guys that were rebounding for us.
So between the two of us, we scored 14 points a game, and we had 3.5 rebounds.
There we go.
Here on the Coaches Show on 90.1 KBPK. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
So that's going to do it for us here at the Coaches Show on 90.1 KBPK. Guys are practicing behind me, which means that it's time for Mark and I to wrap it up, and we're going to get on out of here. So, again, no Fullerton College football this week here on the Coaches Show, which means it stays all basketball with the men's team here at Fullerton College. So, from the Hornets Nest, for Mark Pavlich, I'm Ryan Osborne. Thank you for joining us here on 90.1 KBPK.